Squeegee Podcast, episode 14, with Tim from Random Generator. Hi.
Oh,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good.
It's the first time I've used a camera on my laptop for a long time, and when I put it on, it didn't work at all. So I just had to run and find another laptop to get this working quickly. So apologies for being a few minutes late there.
No problem. I saw you come on and then go off, and I was like, uh-oh.
You know what? It was like like when they pixelate everything. It's like a very blurry vision of everything. I thought it's not really going to run very well. Yeah.
No, that's perfect.
doing?
Thank you. Yeah. So do you want to start by saying who you are and what your studio is called and that type of thing?
Yeah. I'm Tim Petroculus. Our company is Random Generator Printing. We print mainly textiles, so t-shirts and jumpers, but we've always kind of said that we will print anything that you can kind of get flat. So we ended up doing a lot of kind of weird specialty stuff as well. And recently we started doing some bottle printing, or like some cylindrical printing. So that came from one of the little specialist things that people asked us, and we were just like, yeah, we'll do that. And then came up to the problems of it. So yeah, starting to move into a little bit of that stuff. But yeah, mainly really t-shirts and jumpers and stuff like that. So
yeah. Perfect. I've had a really good look on your Instagram. It does seem like you're quite open to challenges and projects and new inks and all that type of thing. So
yeah, we I don't have any education in printing. I don't have any training or any. I did something.
Everyone's just winging it.
Yeah, and I find a lot of people that I speak to that do printing did something completely different in their training, and then started doing printing as something they enjoyed. And I think I did something at uni that I found easy instead of something that I really liked. And after doing it for 3 years, I didn't really like it.
What was that?
I did 3D design.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, in your neck of the woods. So I was at the College Reading and School of Art and Design when it was the College and School of Art and Design.
Yeah, it probably changed up a few times.
Yeah, when we left, it was TVU. So we started off being like College and School of Art and Design. It had quite a good reputation around the country, and when we left, it was TVU, which is like a music university, and not so great to have your design degree there from. So yeah, and I guess we got into. I think me and my brother just decided that we would buy some equipment and print ourselves some t-shirts, and we didn't really think like we're going to make a business out of it. We didn't really, nothing like that. We just sort of thought we can print some t-shirts on the weekends. We don't spend like 30-40 pounds on a t-shirt. At least we can print ourselves some t-shirts. And like, my brother's an artist, so he had lots of good designs, and we thought we'll get those down, we'll get them out. And we kind of had an idea to be a bit of a I think at the beginning we were thinking we were going to be like a bit of a branding company, we'll make our own designs on t-shirts and sell them. But very quickly you learn your strengths and weaknesses, and branding and stuff like that is not really our strength.
If it goes too corporate, I get it, because like on your website and stuff, you talk about your collaborations with people instead of like this is my portfolio or these are my old clients. So that sounds like you're collaborating and working with people. It's kind of branding. It's just like bringing their artwork to life, I suppose.
And especially at the beginning, like we didn't really have any customer base. We didn't really have anywhere to go to get customers from. So really it came from what we were doing at the time, which was we used to do parties in our warehouse. So we were doing like sort of private parties, and through that we're meeting a lot of DJs, and sort of through that we're meeting a lot of graphic designers and stuff like that. It was in a sort of what was a creative part of London. So, and we were just sort of around those people, talking to them and seeing what people needed. And I think that's why we evolved into doing like more speciality stuff. Because when you get talking to people and they're incredibly enthusiastic about something, it really rubs off.
Yeah.
And someone will go on about this project and it's something you've never done before, and you're just saying yes to it before you even thought about it.
Yeah,
and we've done that quite a lot. So we're like, yeah, we'll do that. It's excellent. It looks so good. And then we're like, oh, how are we going to do that?
So it's both of you who are overly enthusiastic. Maybe not overly enthusiastic, but you're both like, no one's there like bringing it in. You're both egging each other on.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, it's mainly at the moment. It's mainly me in a room doing things. But we started off, me and my brother. My brother's left London a little while ago, and he comes in to help me from time to time. But I guess he's more of he's a very good artist, and I'm probably a little bit more technical, maybe.
Yeah.
So we sort of cross over on those sort of things. He's much more, I'd say, creative on that side of it, because he is an artist that will sit down with a piece of paper and draw something amazing, and I don't really have that. That's not really one of my skills or fortes. I did at uni, I really enjoyed the technical drawing part of it, and I was taught technical drawings when I was young, so I found them really easy. So the kind of technical bit of it is what I enjoy, but it's also the bit that can be the most frustrating as well. So
I've seen like you've done like mirror printing as well, but you seem to have, like, I've read a few of your descriptions, and you're talking about, well, this time the ink is like cured, and I started working with Apollo inks, and they've sorted me out with the catalyzed ink. So
I mean, Apollo inks are I mean, I can't, there's a guy that I think his name is Steve. If you phone through to their like research development department or get put through to them, you normally speak to this guy. He is, if you have to print on anything difficult, just what we do is just call that guy up and say, we need to print on this, and he'll be like, send one in, we'll test it to make sure it's right. We've had like weird things to print on, like yoga mats. That poses a certain set of problems. We won't realize, you look at it and think that'd be fine, that's easy, but when you really break down what a yoga mat is and how you're going to print it, it's like, well, I can't cure it with any heat. I can't do this, I can't do that. You know, the mirrors were one of those ones where we got chatting to the client. She had spoken to loads of people that had basically said you can't really do it, and they were trying to tell her other ways of doing it, like sticking vinyl on a bed, and she was like, I don't want to do that. So we were like, of course there's a way to do it, because with screen printing, I think that's one of the attractions of screen printing, is the process is really versatile. You can really print on nearly everything.
Yeah, that sucks everyone in, right? And then we all get trapped. So, well, else can we print on?
And I get people saying, oh, I really want to do this, but I know you can't really do it. And I'm like, yeah, you can do that. That's fine. We had, I mean, the mirrors, we spoke about it, and she was so enthusiastic. I was like, yeah. And originally, the way I thought about doing it in my head didn't work out at all. Because I thought originally we'll do that job like paper. So we'll print all of one layer, and then set up a second layer and print all the second layer, which sounded like all right in my head, but then all the mirrors were round. So you have no X and Y axis for registration. So I was like trying to work out how to make a sort of like something like a frame that would fit around it, and something that would fit onto basically every mirror. When we got the mirrors, obviously they're not millimeter perfect. They're all a little bit different. Like when you get something manufactured like that, they're not made for printing. So they're all a little bit different. The mirror's actually underneath the frame, so you have to have an off contact of like quite a high off contact, because you're on top of the frame. That differs on all of them as well. And then I was trying to work out, my brother just said, look, just print them like a t-shirt. He said, just do it on the carousel like you would something else, and do one at a time. But I mean, the issue is the inks are air drying, and they're not like acrylic. They're very different to acrylic. Yeah, very serious, stinky ink. And then like a problem we didn't really think about at the time when we started doing it is you print one layer and you flash it. So you have to flash cure one layer before putting the second layer down. You can't really flash it too close, because your mirror, because it's mirrored, it reflects the heat. It retains so much heat that you can't put another layer down until it's cooled down.
Right.
So you print one layer
while your ink's drying in.
Yeah, while the ink's drying in. I think we did, I can't remember, we did two, I think we just worked on two boards. So we could work on one, then it would heat up, we'd print the other one. While that was heating up, we'd be cooling the other one down with a little fan. Then we put the second layer down, and then we run them through the dryer at like a really low heat, because only would have to be touch dry. They'll dry in an ambient temperature in a room.
Yeah, they just keep hardening, don't they? Like...
Yeah, but obviously, like while you've got our studio does get a bit dusty. You get fluff, you get very, you know, on a mirror, you can't have any little hair lands on that. It's going to stick there forever. So we had to try and work that one out, make sure it went out. The biggest problem we had with that was interesting was because the mirror would retain so much heat, like you'd wait and it would feel cool. You'd be like, oh, that's all right. I'll put my second layer down. And you put your second layer down, it's all right. And you run it through the dryer. The first layer has still retained some heat between the mirror and the ink. So when it comes out the dryer, actually like half an hour after it comes out the dryer, you start to notice these tiny little bubbles coming up in it because of the heat trapped in beneath, and you have to wait even. So there was a couple that were like that. I mean, we spoke to the client, and I think often with those speciality things, the clients are quite happy to see how it goes.
Because they're so thankful.
There's someone's stupid enough to say yeah. And we generally tend not to charge a lot of money. Well, I guess you could up your price massively because it's so specialty, but also like it's an opportunity to learn something. So I think we price that normally like a normal job. It looks great to the client. Also, we're kind of getting paid to learn it. You know, essentially you can learn something on a job, then that's much better than having to pay out of your own money to learn it.
I was thinking of something funny when you just said that, because like when you're registering a mirror, you're obviously like, you're like all hot and stressed and you're looking down on it and you're actually just looking at yourself getting hotter and like hotter and redder and more stressed. And
then afterwards you get a lovely print, and I can't take a photo of it. Like every photo I tried to take was just me in the background, and I was like, no, I don't want me. Or like I get in the background, it'd be like the roof of the studio or a load of boxes. I'll be like, oh yeah, I've got to. And she obviously had the idea to take them outside on a bright day. We've got the sun and the clouds and all the sky. But just trying to take a photo in the studio, I was like, I don't know, I can take one of here. But we tend to say yes before we think about it too much with things like that, because they look exciting.
Yeah, well, that's how we got started. So I used to just print retro computer panels, like restoration stuff.
Oh, cool.
And the guy, it was a passion project for him. So he just basically funded the studio for years. We were just faffing around on that. Again, no one would touch it. It took me like weeks to do one set of panels. So yeah, sometimes.
But that's one of those things where you get the sense of satisfaction, right? It's not the business side of like getting a job out, doing it really efficiently, getting paid. It's the fact that you're producing something that you're actually really proud of, regardless of whether it took you a week to do or because it took you a week to do it, you know?
I think so, because I've still got it wrapped up in some, I've still got like quite a few of them wrapped up in there. So I must be proud of them because everything else went. So I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I wish we had kept some more of our very original print. I've still got some of the first prints I ever did. But that was, you know, it was very much like we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything about T-shirts, about printing, about selling. Nothing was really set up. Like when we first bought a carousel was about 2007, 2008. And like I say, it was really like in the background. We weren't thinking of this being a business. We just did it in our bedrooms. We did all the separations literally bit by bit on Photoshop. And it's very slow going like that. It's a very steep learning curve. So we had to learn a lot very quickly just to get past the first sort of hurdle. And I guess you have like, when you're learning something like your milestones, right? Like if you want to print black ink on a white shirt, you're going to get away with a multitude of sins. You can really crank, anyone can kind of do that, you know. If you do live printing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of people? Do you do the printing at your live printing events? Do you get a lot of people that want to print their own things?
I teach like as they come up to me, so they print it. But if it's like a kid or something, I'll hold the middle of the squeegee and just like go for it.
Yeah, that's it.
And make them feel like they did it.
I had my son in the studio the other day, and it was like I take one day off a week to be with him, and my girlfriend takes a day off to be with him, so he doesn't have to be in nursery the whole week.
And it's friggin' expensive. It's horrendous.
Just getting to the point now where we get help from the government with it. But regardless, like we don't really want him sitting for 5 days with someone else, like somewhere else. Like he's going to do that at school anyway. So
It's
But
a
on
good
my day
division
off,
of
I had
time.
to do some stuff in the studio, and just that happens sometimes. So I just thought I'd take him in with me, and I made a bit of a thing. So you can print your own t-shirts, and he did. It was fine. I got him on he's obviously free, so he's very small, but I got him on a chair, and I was like, look, I'll do it. Show you how to do it, and he did it. He can't really like force the ink through the mesh because he's free. He's not really got the.
Come on.
He could do it. He was putting it along. He was doing the pull. And at the end, I just do one little one to get it out the mesh, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But in his mind, he's trying to do that himself, and I'm like, that's brilliant. That's, for me, that was worth, you know, leaving my job and doing this full time to be able to do that. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, I've seen you posted about him just a couple of times, I reckon. But
yeah,
there was a really sweet shot that you've got of him and him coming into your new studio and stuff. And
yeah, we'll have a thing
he's got the boss approval.
Yeah, I had a thing about not putting pictures of him online, because I'm like, when he's older, he can decide that himself. Right now, he doesn't really have the choice. I don't really want a picture of him online anywhere. But when he was doing that printing, I got a photo of him. I was like, I'm going to have to post that because my heart was swelling. So I thought I better just post that one thing. And I don't post anything else. So I was like, just that one, it's fine.
Yeah.
But you know, that'll be my helper in 15 years or so, hopefully.
So now your business has gone from you and your brother, and it wasn't originally a business, but now it is probably more like it's probably funding your lifestyle a bit more. Have you got any like plans like where you want to move the business, or do you want to specialize, or do you want to stay like this? Like,
I mean, we like I say, it was definitely like a DIY beginnings, and back then there wasn't like so many YouTube tutorials. It was really a case of like phoning people up. We phoned up like the LCC, or it was LCP then, but the LCC, or like companies. I remember calling up Fifth Column when they were in Kentish Town. They gave us a bunch of advice, and I think that was one of the things that drew me into like the printing industry. Is there's a very like non-competitive nature between printers. Like when we phoned up companies or places to ask them, so I'm having a problem printing this. You get through to a printer on the print floor, they'll tell you straight away. There's no like, oh, well, you're a competitive company. It's like, oh, you're having trouble printing a good white on a black. Yeah, this is what you need to do. And with sort of those phone calls and those sort of meetings with people that made me think it's
good that you're brave enough to make those calls, because a lot of people would just like suffer in silence. So that's really good.
Yeah. Well, I think now you've got so many more resources now, haven't you? Like YouTube on its own now is like, can pretty much teach you anything. Quite amazing if you do it a bit what's the word, if you're a bit careful about what you're looking at on there, you can learn pretty much anything. I think that's really great. But yeah, I guess like we just didn't have much choice, and I just think it was like that was the option available. So you'd ring up, and if someone didn't answer or couldn't help you, just ring up the next place. I had some friends that went to LCP or LCC now, and my friend, she gave me the number of her old tutor, or just his name, and we might have just rung up. But either way, I got through to him, and he said, "Look, come down and have a chat." So I spent like 2 hours with him, showing me everything, and there were things like that at the beginning that really helped. But I guess you have milestones, don't you? I think we had a contract early on that was printing white. Part of it was white on black, and when I first learned to print, I couldn't get a good white on a black shirt. Like plastisol, I just couldn't. It was always like mottled. It was always, and I think that was like one of the first milestones where it's like, oh, I actually got it. I got to a point where I was like, well, if I can't, I've spent about a week doing this now. So if I can't do it, then maybe I should just be doing something else. Maybe I should.
That was your.
Yeah, I was like, if I can't do this in a week, then like maybe this isn't for me. Like, and that night I did it and had the ones that I was really happy with, and were like, oh, well, I should carry on doing this then. And we moved into we started off in our bedrooms in little bases, so it was literally like we had a little flat where the carousel like went over my brother's bed. So like, we could only work in there when no one was asleep. It was like boiling hot to work in just our shorts because it's a little room, be dripping with sweat, like trying to get all these orders out. Then we moved into a warehouse with a bunch of our friends, and part of it was to have some decent space, but we were still working other jobs, so we still had like a part-time job doing stuff. And I think when my brother was made redundant, which is the main reason why he left London and why we sort of separated a little bit working, and I had a part-time job and that worked quite well because I go to work for like 5 hours in the morning and then print in the afternoon. But you don't really have the time. It's like you're spreading yourself too thinly. You're doing two things, neither of them very well. Like, it was a job I didn't really like, and doing like a couple hours in the afternoon or whatever isn't really enough to make a business.
Yeah.
And there was a point where we had a little contract doing something for someone. And I mean, now I look back, we used to do all their fulfillment. They used to literally send us the order, we'd pack it up, send it out, charge them 50p for like the Jiffy bag. And then at the end of the month, and front all the postage ourselves. And at the end of the month, we'll give them all the receipts, they'd pay us for the postage. And now I look back, I'm like,
what was that? Yeah. They were like rubbing their hands together, like, geez, this is brilliant.
We didn't know any better. And obviously at the beginning, you're gunning for work. So you do a lot of things that other people won't do because you're like, I just want to get the work in. And then there was a point where like the orders would go out late because I was at work so much. And I think that's make or break time. You've got to make a decision. Then I'm going to stay doing a job I don't like really, but pays all the bills perfectly, or like stop doing that and do something I really enjoy, but it's going to be a bit of a risk as to whether it's going to pay the bills. But I left my job, and every time I get to a point where, like, say we wouldn't have like any jobs or any money, and I'll be like, I'm gonna have to get another job. I'm gonna have to look at a job. And I think every single time I called up to get a job, like that day, a screen printing job would come in.
I know.
Like, and it was
crazy,
literally,
like,
I felt this is the universe telling me to like stop messing about now. I think I went for like some labouring job somewhere, and it's like you go and sit in a room and you wait for them to give you the work. And I think I went like on the third day, the guy was like, sorry, one second. My phone also broke this morning here, so I have a black flashing screen. I can't answer it, so I can't put it on silent. So I do apologise if it rings again. What was I saying?
You were saying you're in a room, and because you're doing labouring, and sometimes you just be sitting there and they haven't got anything for you to do.
Yeah, and they come in and they'd say, and the guy saw me, said, he goes, you've been here a couple of days. He said, I'll definitely get you work tomorrow. He said, if you come in tomorrow, we'll definitely get you work. I was like, okay,
wait, so you didn't get paid if they didn't get you work?
Nah, you just go and sit in that room. If they get you work, you can get work. And it's mainly not people from the UK in there, you know. And I think the guy was a bit surprised to see me there. And he was like, oh, well, come in tomorrow. We'll definitely get you work tomorrow because you've been here a couple of days. And literally like 2 hours later, we had like a big job come in printing. And I was like, am I going to go and sit in a room to do some labouring, or am I going to do this?
Yeah. It's tricky that, because I think a lot of our scale kind of printers, we've all had like a dramatic time. And it can, if your cash flow isn't right, a couple of weeks where you're not monitoring the money, that can be, it's just panic.
Yeah.
Especially if you haven't, if you're doing things like relying on customers paying bills on time and stuff like that, which we thankfully we stopped that. It's always like payment up front now, just because we've been burned.
Yeah.
But,
we had someone before Christmas.
Scary.
Yeah, we had someone before Christmas, like, ghost us like we're a Tinder date or something, and it's quite a big bit of money. I actually got through to him the other day. I think I caught him off guard. He answered his phone and I was like, oh, hello. So yeah, we'll pay you next week. It's another week now, still hasn't paid us. So
has his cat died yet?
Same thing, which is, and I had other people that running companies saying, look, just get it up front. I said, anyone who doesn't want to pay you up front, they're not being serious about the job anyway. Don't worry about them. They're not people you want to work with. Thought, that's it. And this year we haven't had any problems. Everyone's paid us up front straight away just because we've asked them to. So yeah.
That's lesson number one though. I've even had someone tell me they've done a bank transfer, screenshotted it. So I ordered the stuff because it was like so quick. I had to do like otherwise next day. I had the screenshot. I was like, right, okay, that's going to take like 2 or 3 hours or something. Normally it's instant. Everyone knows it's instant.
Yeah. When people say, oh, it will be in tomorrow, I'm like, you haven't done it, mate. That's not going to be in tomorrow. It will be in now, or you haven't done it. Yeah.
The audacity though, it was like a approved screenshot of it going in. Yeah. And then he called up the bank and retracted it.
What?
And said it was a mistake. Okay. These snakes are everywhere. And we have to protect ourselves because and that went on though. That was a whole thing, but they're everywhere. And
I mean, and it's funny, isn't it? People will expect their shirts yesterday. They want everything real quickly. And then when the money comes, that's a whole different fact. And we've had it with a few people when we pay them late, especially big companies.
Big companies are the worst.
Yeah, because the guy that will pay your bill isn't the guy you dealt with. So we'll do a bunch of work and they pass it to the account. And you think it's a big company, accounts payable, that'll be fine. And then the person you're dealing with is like, oh, we do that once a month. It'll be on the 26th at the end of the month. And you're like, what? So I think we're a bit more clear with like terms when we're setting the job out. But I think someone said to me recently, said, look, you need to work on your business and not in your business. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I haven't really been doing that until this year. I've just been working in my business. But it's a bit of both, right? Because if you're just working on your business, then you need to know with what we're doing, you need to know that the prints you're doing are good, that are going out.
Yes, but
and you need to know what you're producing is like, because that's the hardest thing at the moment. I probably at some point over the next year, I need to get someone else in to start doing some printing with me. And it's a hard thing to hand over. It's a really hard thing to hand over the printing bit to someone else. But that's the bit that I really need to hand over to someone else, because then it gives me the time to build everything else up. But it is, and obviously, like, you get into printing because you want to print, not because you want to sit behind a desk and build a business. It's because you enjoy printing, you know. Not
I did read something I read something on one of your things, and it was like, oh, this year I'm going to start automating processes. So like, what kind of things are you thinking about automating or like working on specifically?
Well, I generally do like everything myself. So I spend my time writing quotes, invoices, inventory, stock, checking consumables, obviously doing the artwork, setting up jobs. So I'm going to sign up to something like Printavo. I think that's what's been recommended to me the most as like kind of shop running software. So that automates a lot of the back end of it, as in your invoicing and you're setting up stuff like that. And yeah, apart from that, I read an interesting article recently about in Images about, well, not a while ago now, about basically doing one job at a time, pulling one job through at a time instead of like doing multiple jobs. Yeah, and we'll quite often like process multiple jobs. And I think because I'm on my own, I think, well, I can spend a day processing screens, and then I can set them up and just spend a day printing, because that will be a good day. That's out of the whole job, that's the day you're going to really enjoy, is the one when you're on press printing. But obviously, if like there was, you know, you've got a problem with your emulsion and you've just coated 10 screens, you're going to have wasted 10 screens. So I mean, when I remember reading the article thinking, you're going to waste a lot of time putting one job through at a time. But now I sort of see it and think, oh, I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on what size jobs you're doing as well. Because if you're doing lots of little jobs, you can process them and get them set up and do all that stuff very quickly. But actually, there's no reason not to pull them through like one at a time.
It's tricky. We've just gone into batching. So it's kind of like we're looking at it differently. Because I used to pull through jobs and kind of, if they came on Monday, I'd do it on the Monday, get it out by the Tuesday. And then I'd have another job come in on the Wednesday and get it out by the Friday, that type of thing. Yeah. But now I do what you said a second ago, where I like do all the, like, I've just been separating all my acetates out there. All my separations are done. Then all my screens are coated. And then I do mass printing all in one day. Yeah. Normally on a Thursday, tomorrow. Yeah. And I find it easier. And it's a bit easy with your head to concentrate on one thing, right? Because when you're jumping about, like, you go and do some artwork, and then you go and do a screen, and then you go and do some reclaiming, and then you mix some colors, and then you, do you know what I mean? It's like you're actually, it's a bit hectic, and you kind of all over the place. Whereas when you're concentrating, and people calling you up, throwing you off, and you kind of forget that your time can be taken up by that. Like my phone, I dropped my phone this morning, and the screen broke, and I forget, because I think so analog that I forget that like everything's done on your phone, right? So I can't even put a payment through because you have to approve it on the phone app. Oh, yeah. I thought, oh, that's all right, I'll do it through PayPal. And PayPal sends you an OTP message to your phone, which I can't read. I'm like, oh man. So I spent like loads of time this morning just kind of sorting that out, which is like
pain. And yeah, lots of little things like that I sort of like, I sort of forget about how long they take accumulatively. And I think it is better. Like, I know I've just said that about pulling one job through at a time. So I'm thinking like what's going to work better. But I still think like, I find it easier. Just the way I find it. But I find it easier to do one thing, like spend a whole day doing artwork. And I think like you're less likely to miss anything on that artwork. Like spend a whole day doing screens, you're less likely to make any mistakes on those screens. And then you spend a whole day printing, you're less likely to make any mistakes in those printing. And you'll print a bit. I find I'll print a bit faster because I just do it all day. But then we do have
hot and stuff all at once. I don't know. It's tricky. I don't think there is a right answer. But
no.
Yeah, it's just when you feel like you're in a flow. I have to get into a flow, and it takes me like 45 minutes, and then I'm like smashing everything. And if someone calls me, I'm out for like 15 minutes. I don't even know where I am. Then I've got to get back into it, and then I can smash it again.
See, when I'm on press, that's probably the one time that unless I think it's drastically important, I just won't answer the phone. For anything else that I'm doing, I'll take the calls. But if I'm actually printing and I'm doing something, it's the one time where I just
not worth it.
Unless I've been doing it for like 3 hours and I want a bit of a break, and I'm like, oh, that'll be my 10-minute break or whatever. But I remember, I think I listened to an earlier podcast where you were saying about doing like all-nighters and stuff like that.
In the beginning, now I don't. Now we're very tight with ourselves. We've given ourselves a lot more goals out of the studio. So in order to do those, I have to clock off at certain times. I suppose it's, but yeah, I have done all-nighters where I've fallen asleep in here. And almost fallen asleep in the car when we used to commute. So that was dangerous.
Yeah, we that's definitely want to be driving back after those days. Yeah, no.
Well, I didn't know what else to do. I had to. But I've just forced myself into a negative spiral. And if you've got like pets at home, you're like, I have to get home and feed that. So
and that's and that goes two ways when you're setting up a DIY place, right? Because when you're working in your bedroom, you don't have some of them problems. When we were working in the warehouse, it was kind of like I could just walk out my bedroom and work. I could come out at like midnight and do some jobs. I could finish at 1 a.m. and literally just roll into bed.
Yeah, when your kid's asleep or something, then you can.
Yeah, see that. Luckily, that was all before I had my kids. So we moved from that warehouse into a separate warehouse that was just work. For the same reason, it was like after having it where you live for like years, you're like, I kind of want to separate these two things now, and I kind of want to be able to go home and go to bed and not walk out of my room straight onto a press, like even if I haven't got work on you, it's just there all the time. So then we moved into a separate warehouse for that. But we were around Hackney Wick for about 10 years, which is just area. By the it was. We've seen it change so much. I guess we moved there before they built the Olympic Stadium. So it was really like a quiet industrial estate. And the only people were doing stuff there. Like we were on Fish Island side, so there's literally like one road in and one road out. So you're not driving there unless you're going there for a reason. So there was no, you could sit in the middle of the road all day. Your car wouldn't even go past you. It was so quiet. And everyone was so, there was a community there, and everyone was doing stuff. So it was really, really nice. And then they built the Olympic Stadium. And even then, for years, it was still pretty good. And then now like the rents, once they started developing the area, once they started putting the apartment blocks in, then the rents are like straight up, and it's not really so viable. In fact, we left because they were like, we have to knock down your building to build some apartments. And we were like, oh, no, actually to build a bridge, and knock it down, but knock down a nice Victorian warehouse so we can put in a footbridge. There's another footbridge like 50 meters down the canal. We're like, okay. And I was walking across that bridge with my son a little while ago, and I was saying to him, oh, my studio used to be just here. And as I looked down, I was like, oh no, my studio's still there. It's right there. They've just done it up, rented it for like 4 times the amount of money.
Right.
So, and you see this,
you out.
Yeah, and a lot of places in East London, we got either priced out with the area becoming trendy and then the pricing going up, or they're knocking the building down. You've got like an old warehouse, they're going to knock it down and they're going to make flats. So we moved into North London. We got a very good deal. We went in with, well, we went to rent basically a little porter cabin off someone. And when we went in there, it was like, you weren't going to run a business in there. It wasn't really, but he had like another big warehouse that they weren't using. And we ended up like just using some of that space.
Yeah.
And I could sort of see that what was going on there wasn't going to work. And the guy, he wasn't really paying rent. They turned up one day, the agents turned up, we're in the middle of a job. They said, right, turn off your equipment. We're changing the locks. Everyone's got to get out.
All right, because it was like like lots of different businesses were using the
Yeah,
space.
we were basically, there was me, a guy doing concrete and a guy doing construction. So not good things to go together really, but we were renting space off this guy and he just hadn't paid rent. So they came to say, basically, get your stuff. And the guy gave us half an hour. We finished the job we were printing, like boxed it up and took it with us. Otherwise it would be locked inside. And then over the next week, our 3 companies took over the lease for the building. And because it was like an old building that was falling down, we got a really good deal on it. Not falling down, but like, you know, the odd leak in the roof that we had to fix, the odd plant growing through the roof, and no heating whatsoever. But
that's what you got to do. You just got to like adapt to that space and stuff. Like, how did you get your name, like random generator, and have to get that in?
That's as random as you can imagine. Before we moved into our first warehouse, we were in a little flat in Leytonstone, me and my brother. And when we moved in there, like we had a load of trouble finding a place for some reason. Every place we were going to move into, they dropped out right at the last minute. And we didn't have anywhere to live for like ages. And we managed to get into this really, really rubbish flat. It was not nice at all. But it was the only place we could find. So it was fine. We got in there, set up the press in one of the bedrooms. I literally had nothing when we moved in. A press was all we had. Like I think the first day we moved in there, we went to go and cook some dinner and we were like, we don't even have any plates to eat the dinner on. So we might as well get a takeaway. You know, we literally had nothing in there.
Too cheaty. Sound like you're not planning. That's really fun.
No, this was like, 15 years ago. We definitely weren't planning. No, there was no planning going into that at all. The one thing that we had in that flat was like, we had this salt grinder, and the salt grinder was like, you never knew what you were going to get with it. Yeah, it was like you turn it, but like you might get some ground down salt. You might just get some massive lumps of salt like this. You never really knew what you were getting. And we used to call it the random generator because you never knew what you were going to get with it. And I don't know why that name just kind of stuck when we were, I guess that we moved from that place into the warehouse, and I guess that was when it started to get a bit more serious. The name just kind of stuck. Well, we did go through a multitude of names before that. When we thought we were going to be like a branding company, we used to do all these images of like 2 different animals put together. So you'd have like the head of a cat, but the body of like an otter.
Right.
And we had all these weird things. So one of our names we had before was Cat Otter. I don't know why. But we went through a few names, and random generator was just kind of the one that stuck. But it doesn't have any greater meaning than that. It was a salt grinder that was it.
Yeah, I love the logo though. That is, I can tell if it was your brother or you doing that logo, that's some serious skill.
The Scrabble pieces. Yeah. That is a photo of Scrabble pieces.
Is it?
Yeah, because I can't draw. I'm not very good at drawing. My brother's an artist. I'm not, like, maybe designing or technical drawing, but drawing like that, I'm not very good at it. And I had that idea, and I didn't know how to do it. I was like, so I just, but we used to play Scrabble a lot. So we had a Scrabble board. So I just made it in a Scrabble board and took a photo of it, and then put it in Photoshop and just messed around with it till I got that out of it.
Oh, nice.
So, I'm glad you liked it. Thanks.
Yeah, people should go on your website and see that kind of stuff. There's some really good artists on there. I really liked the real Dill.
The Real Dill.
Graffiti artist.
Yeah. And he like used to come to our parties when he was young. And that's how we knew him, just from the parties. And I think that was before he was even a graphic designer, probably just when he finished school or whatever. And it was like, he'd come to the parties and because we had like a big warehouse, we'd just like draw on the wall, draw whatever you want, it's fine. And because he'd always come with like Poscas, we'd be like, yeah, draw something there, go for it. And because we'd be like, oh, and then we saw like some of his actual artwork, and we're like, oh, you're really good. Like, you're really good. And then like a year or two later, he's a good graphic designer. It's actually this is the real deal here.
Yeah, I thought you might. I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, that was the first paper print I ever did.
Nice.
And it's kind of was helpful knowing people like that you could turn around to, and that wouldn't, because he didn't charge me for that. He was like, oh yeah, we'll just do a print. And I said, yeah, if I sell some, we'll split the money. But even back then, because I had no idea about how to sell anything or like where to sell it. I mean, I think we've still got like a set of 40 of those in a cupboard somewhere.
Yeah, get that out, especially now he's probably bigger and more well known. And
well, I asked him recently, I was like, what do you think about doing that? Looks a bit retro compared to his style now, because obviously he's come on so far in the last like 10 years. I'm like, I don't know if I could sell that for your work anymore. Your work's so much better than that now.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's an original. Sod it. Just do it. It will pay for something else in the studio.
And I think because we were learning at the beginning, it was good for us to work with people like that. So anyone that wanted to work with us, as opposed to just be like now it's good, we're a bit more set up, give us a job, we'll process it and do it. Back then, it wasn't really. So anyone who wanted to sit down and work with us on a project, we were like, yeah, let's do that.
Do you feel like it's gone through a cycle of like these like quite fun, energetic collaborations, and then you feel like you have to get a bit more serious and pay the bills and get structure, but then you lose that creativity again?
Yeah,
and, like,
so that
you've got to like put that in again. It's like a little bit artificially, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's why we take those like specialty jobs, that because there's not, if you look at like a business model, then your business model with screen printing is normally based on a certain amount of speed, right?
It's dry, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you get your job, if it takes you twice as long to do a job, then you're getting paid half as much for it. So jobs that take out a lot of working out and all this testing and all this stuff, like you're not really getting, when you work it out on an hourly rate, you're not really getting paid for it. You know, you're getting paid very little for it. But they're the jobs that are like much more exciting and much more interesting, and you're always learning something new on them. So I think it's like you've got your bread and butter jobs, you've got your like easy jobs that are like maybe low numbers of colors, like higher runs, things that you know you can like kind of pump out without any worry about mistakes or anything like that. And then I think often I'll take on speciality jobs, not because I think, oh, we're going to make some money, that's going to help pay the rent, because it's probably not. I just think that's going to be really fun. It's going to make up for like the 10 hours that I've just spent like sitting on the carousel doing it, because we used to do all-nighters and stuff like that all the time. And especially with when my son was born, it was like there's only certain times you can go in. So it's like I'll have to make the most of it. Now we've moved out to Southend to be near the sea and stuff, but my studio is still in North London. So I normally go in and stay there 1 or 2 nights a week, just work like straight through for days, and then sort of like I'll go there early, work straight through till the following day, and then leave really early to get him from nursery or something. And then I'll go in another day and do the same thing, and then I'll take a day off. But it is like, it means that we have very intense periods of work. So you'll have like 24 hours to get a bunch of jobs out. And I'm not
that sounds really high pressure. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah. And it's just been this year since you moved. So and now obviously I thought that I made a bit of a mistake, because I thought that like really being in London the whole time, I really need to keep my business in London. And that's kind of what I thought. Like I get a lot of business, a lot of local business. So a lot of jobs, because people want stuff done quickly. There's a lot of jobs that we send out, like we print it, goes in a box, goes in an Uber, goes down the road. Someone's got it. Goes
in an Uber. Ugh.
Yeah, because sometimes an Uber's cheaper than the courier, and they'll come and get it in 10 minutes.
Wow,
courier's going to take 90 minutes to collect it, and it's going to charge me. It depends where it's going in London. Obviously, if it's going like quite far in London, it will probably be cheaper with the courier. And also, if your client's conducive to like going out and getting it from the car, because an Uber driver isn't going to come and bring it into your house. But if people want the job the second you finish it, then that's the option. And a lot of local people around North London and stuff, they're quite happy to have that service. And obviously, once we move out of London, some of that will probably drop off. But
who cares?
Yeah, and the prices.
Just do what's best for you guys.
Yeah, and I think what I did at the beginning when we moved, I did what I thought was best for the business. But I don't think like your business shouldn't really be that relatable to where you are. It should be based on your work. Yeah, and it should be based on your work, not like your location. If I'm just getting work in a certain place, like I don't really want that work. So I started touting for some work locally down here, and I started having a few jobs down here with people and started chatting to people. And obviously I see what you get in terms of your rent, like what you get square footage down here in Southend compared to London. Like I thought with the global pandemics and everything, companies shutting, there'd be
it must be soon, right? Like, when are they going to piss off from these ideal factories and
when
stuff?
all the cheap places going to come up? Yeah,
I don't know. I'm waiting for it as well.
So we kind of ended up somewhere that would seem like a good deal. Now, like a little bit further down the year, I'm like, I'm in a really small space. It's tight, and that puts other pressure on you when you're in a small space like that. And then I look around here.
Are you tied in for a long contract or something like that? Or
we've been there a year, so now we're on a rolling contract. So really now I'm just looking for units down here. So I hope the next couple of months move down here. Yeah, like my girlfriend will send me a picture of her on a lunch break on the beach, and I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, that is why we moved here, right? Like, you know, so yeah, and like you're saying, your business needs to work for you, and if you've got other commitments, then your work needs to kind of fit around some of those commitments. Obviously, with like the little one, like he's going to be the main responsibility, and everything kind of has to fit around him a bit more. So I notice how much I'm like, even just staying 2 nights a week, like that's 2 nights a week I'm not at home with him. And like when I lived on my own or whatever, it wouldn't really matter, that was fine. But now it's like 2 nights a week I'm not with my son. It's a bit rubbish. Like,
you're feeling
yeah,
well,
like the day that I get off with him is the most fun day of the week. So
yeah, I know, it's kind of that's basically do you know, like people who work in office jobs and they hate their job and then they're waiting for Friday, and then Sunday night they're like, oh, Monday. That sounds like literal hell to me, because I enjoy, like, I've now in a position we've kind of like made it so it's enjoyable for ourselves. But yeah, I think it's probably inevitable then that you'll eventually get into a position where you can switch that up. And
I mean, I've done that job that you're talking about that you don't like doing. I've done that, so I know like what the options are to like leave this and to do something like that. It's not really a viable option. You know what I mean? Like when you wake up every day, sun. And when you wake up, and also you get to be in charge of your time. Like, the only thing we really have is our time. You know, that's ours, that we decide what we do with it. And if you have to wake up at a certain time every day and you have to work to a certain time every day, then your time's not really yours. And that has other you know, psychological effects of how you live your life. Whereas you know what, every year I had a job, pretty much every year when I had a job, I get to Christmas and I'd spend my last money on like my last lot of presents and be like, I won't have any money till I get paid in January now. And I think after my first year of quitting my job at Christmas, I was in that exact same position. And I was like, okay, I haven't loads of money sitting around here, but you know what? For the last 7 years, I've had a job every month, and I've been in the same position. I've never been better than this anyway.
Yeah, and you've built a business that's accumulating in the background and working, and that's only growing, and your reputation and your skills. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's what we have to base ourselves on, really, isn't it? The reputation and skills. But I mean, I guess you have the same thing. You work with a lot of different people, right? And different people have different expectations. And different, you know, some people understand screen printing a lot. Some people have no idea whatsoever. And there are times now when I'll be talking to people and I'll end up just sort of recommending that they get something done digitally. And I'll be like, I can outsource, you know, we do a bit of outsourcing for digital work, because we know some good digital printers. But I'm like, I don't think, like, for what you're doing, you're going to spend a lot of money. And you might not be happy with it being screen printed anyway. So obviously it's very design specific, isn't it? Depending on the image that you're doing. But there's a bunch of times I'll say to someone, if you want this done cheaply, just get it done digitally. Like if you don't mind about it being done cheaply, I'm a screen printer. I'm always going to tell you screen printing is the best way to print something, always.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and I don't know, digital's getting a lot better, isn't it? If you go to some of the expos, the new Cornet machines compared to like the old DTG, they're like a completely different thing. But I mean, like, personally, yeah, I'm a screen printer, so I'm always going to be like, screens are always best.
Oh, thank you. I just don't give a shit. I don't care if that printer can do it, because it's not the same. Even if they do make it so that it does emulate what I can do,
No, it's not the same.
No,
it's not the same
you're paying
quality.
for my mind and how I break down the images, and how I
Yeah.
lay down the ink and the feel of it, and the advice. And I don't want to just press a button, it's done, and you're just churning it out like a computer.
Yeah, we went to Printwear and Promotion, like the last one they had on when the pandemic, I can't remember when it was. And we saw the new Avalanche, Cornet Avalanche, the new thing. And you know, first of all, they caught, like, obviously everyone's getting them on lease. No one's really buying them because they cost like $250,000 or something. So there's not a lot of business model where you've got 250 grand spare for a machine like that. It's a bit, so everyone's leasing them. Like, the guy was showing us it and he was going, look, like, slap it on, press the button, 2 minutes later it comes out. And I was going, yeah. I said, yeah, it does look good. And it is like 2 minutes for a full color bag, whatever. But I was like, but wouldn't you be bored? It's like, your job is like to put something on a plate and then press a button. Like, you're going to do that all day long. Like, that just seems really boring to me. So I sort of will offer digital if I think that it's going to be better for a client, because I'm not like, I don't want to take money off people if they want something different. But also it's like the quality, like, that's the other thing. DTG is getting a bit better because they used to just wash out so quickly. Like,
3 washes and it's just dead.
Does anyone ever ask you that? People ask me like, oh, is it all right? Am I all right to wash it? Like,
yeah. And I just say, yeah, it's professional retail quality. I've been doing it for years and I teach screen printing. Yeah. And then one guy kept badgering me about that, and he was a roofer. I was like, well, is your roof going to leak? And then he got it, and I was like, yeah, thank you.
Because you're on your own level there, mate.
Yeah, I just like to know what their profession is, and then say, like, if they're a chef, I'm like, am I going to get food poisoning if I eat this? Yeah. You do like deadpan and a bit of silence, and then
and wait for an answer. Wait for an answer.
Yeah. Okay. It's. I think it just. I'm resonating with everything you've said, because I'm either going through it now or I've had an experience that's very similar to it. I haven't had I suppose I have worked quite far away from the studio, but I feel like a lot of printers that I'm talking to now, they're realizing that everything's online and they don't really want the walk-in customers anyway, because most of those people don't know what the hell they're talking about. So they can move out into like the countryside or the sticks a little bit more, spread out, and not get that like walking stress. Like, we don't even put our signs out anymore. No. We don't put our A-card out.
What, are you like in an industrial estate?
I'm going to say yes, but there's kind of like mixed.
Okay.
Like, there's like people live above units.
Okay. You've got some.
It is industrial,
basically.
Yeah, and like the next street along, there's like houses.
Yeah.
There's lots of pedestrians and people thinking like we're tattooists, or just walking in for like one shirt because it's funny down the pub.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, just got.
How much would it cost to get one shirt done?
I don't know.
Depends what you want done, really.
I know. I've just got stacks of business cards at the front, and I just give them them. I've got it on copy and paste. Like, who will take that? Who will take those jobs off me? Yeah. That's why I don't mind being in the countryside if it was an option.
And it's a bit nicer when you step outside, right? I mean, when I step outside in Finsbury Park, it's not that, it's all right. Like, I've got Finsbury Park just down the road. It's like, but apart from that, it's not that great. I think there's a lot of things about London that are good, that have always been good for work and for opportunities. And I think, like you say, I think a lot of that's changed in the last couple of years.
Because they can see your Instagram now, they can look you up. Yeah. It's less like handshakes and walking around, especially with COVID. Like,
I think because of the last years, because of the pandemic, I think so many people have left London, and they're like seeing the opportunity of the opportunity of the lifestyle of not being in London. You know,
Yeah.
I was thinking it like from here, I'll get to London in like 45 minutes. And it takes you about 45 minutes to get anywhere in London anyway.
Yeah,
So you
that's
think I'm
right.
not actually traveling that much more when you think about it. It's like, it's
Yeah.
about the same as what it would take to get across London. So, you know, I used to meet my mate in Paddington from Reading. And I used to tell him, I said, you get here quicker than me. I said, you get in 25 minutes. It takes me 45 minutes from East London. So London's, it's sort of like, I think it's seems a lot more appealing when you're a bit younger as well.
Yeah,
And
I think
back
so.
like a few years ago when there was more stuff going on. But I don't know, like, I guess we'll see, because obviously so much has changed in the last few years with events and stuff. So I don't know about you, but a lot of our work before, a lot of it was events and various events. And so when in that first lockdown, in that first March, like we just sort of had everything cancelled, like the whole summer cancelled. Like, and luckily, I think a lot of people started turning to doing other stuff, like trying to do other things. And
then their side hustles came out, and then you can service those, right?
Oh, and for all of those, they needed merchandise.
Yeah.
So printers kind of little printers did all right. And because I'm basically a guy in a room, I could stay open the whole time. So I didn't have to shut over any of the lockdowns. And obviously the big printers, they did have to shut to furlough their staff, and they can't run without that amount of staff. So there were some people we saw, like there were people that my girlfriend would follow that would be like, I can't get anything printed right now. She'd just hit them up and be like, my boyfriend can print that for you. And be like, oh yes, there's a few jobs we kind of nabbed off people during the pandemic, which was quite nice. I don't know how many of them stayed after the pandemic, but it worked out. It feels weird saying it, but you know, the pandemic sort of did all right for us in the long run.
Yeah. I get that it it took all the air out of the room for a lot of people, and there wasn't anything they felt they could do. But we did lots of weird things that weren't even a thing back then, like, you know, like support local shirts, and then lots of people figured out that. And then like working for tattooists, that's an opportunity. If you're aggressive enough, and this is literally how you're putting food on the table, you will come up with a solution, or you'll teach yourself how to make a website, or your flyer, your local. You'll literally go out and do anything. And that's, that grafting stuff is always been with us. But I think those kind of times like push you towards doing that.
And that's good ultimately, because sometimes you might not have been pushed to doing that. Like if you weren't pushed to it, you might not get 100%. To that. It gets a bit easy to like do with what you know sometimes, whereas being pushed out of your comfort zone is always like beneficial. It's always like leads to something better down the line. So I mean, I'm a great believer that the things happen for a reason, and the universe works the way it's meant to. So when good things happen, you can be like, great, but then when bad things happen, you have to think the same thing. Think, well, it's happened for a reason. It's the whole, you know, one door shuts, one opens, or whatever other cliche of that. But so hopefully we'll move down to Southend this year. Hopefully in the next couple of months. We just got. It's funny because I just started looking at units and they've all gone in the last few months. I was chatting to someone and they were saying, "Oh, they've literally all gone in the last few months." I was like,
no, that's just you just talk to the wrong person. Something will pop up now. It's kind of like when you're searching for a car, and then you get the car, and then everyone's got the car. It's because that's what you're looking for now. Me and my girlfriend were just saying that whatever you're looking for is the things that you see. Right?
Of course. You're talking about like blue cars. You're going to see loads of blue cars all of a sudden. You're like, what? What's these blue cars? So and I think, you know, you get back what you put out. You know what I mean? So I think as long as you're trying to help people, then someone's going to help you. So
I think I could see that in your outlook, and or even just from looking at your Instagram and the type of people you're working with. And I think you're putting out a lot of positivity, and if people like follow you on Instagram and stuff, they'll see that too. So you just got to look up random generator, haven't they?
Random generator. I don't play that game enough. I don't know. I don't use Instagram enough. I don't use social media enough. I don't play any of those games to their fullest. But I think there's priorities, and when you're a small thing, Your
It's just another
priority is like
tool.
the work. Yeah,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, of course.
And the rest, yeah, I think the rest follows. So even now, most of our work is probably word of mouth. And yeah, and when I started, it was always word of mouth. And everyone used to say, oh, you need to get a website and you need to do this and you need to get a big cartel and you need to get an Etsy and all these things. And none of them ever got.
How do you know you have it? Those people probably don't even have businesses, by the
No,
way.
and all those things never really got me any work. Like the website we had years ago that we built, like even our website now, it does get traffic and we get some work with, but a lot of that is because of recommendations, not because people are just finding it. Yeah. So there's other things like the big cartel and all the other, they never really, like for us, it never really worked. But I guess, like I say, we thought we were going to print our own designs on t-shirts and sell them, and that's not what we've become at all. I guess it's strengths and weaknesses, and our strength was as a service for other people who knew exactly what they were doing. Because when we were doing that, we didn't know what we were doing. So that kind of worked out better for us. And I enjoy doing that as well. I enjoy doing that more. Like the responsibility of like selling stuff and needing to sell stuff because you paid for it or whatever. Yeah, I don't enjoy that so much. I don't really like that pressure of thinking like I've put this much into something and I need to get this much back. And with printing, I don't think about this. It's your time, really, isn't it? Or your
you give them the box and it's like, have fun with that. Hope you sell it.
Yeah, that's it. And we had like right at the beginning, we'd have people say, "Oh, if we can print it, can we just pay you after we sell them? We expect to sell them in like a week." And because we had no idea, we're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll work with you."
Did you?
You know, and then a few months down the line, you're like, "You still have to pay us. If you don't sell any, you still have to pay us for everything we've done." So yeah, I think you learn, didn't you? And I think as long as everything you're doing is like you're trying to learn something from it, then even those negatives are like positives. Because I think, you know, we had someone recently that wasn't happy with some work, and it's quite a lot of it. It's kind of contentious. There's like there are some very tiny little things. And they're probably like, I see worse stuff like that being produced all the time. But if I can
hard to not take it personally, maybe.
Yeah, and also like if you can see something that's a problem, I can see it. Like whether it's a big thing or not, I can still see it. You still got to take responsibility for it. So there was a big job before Christmas. I just had to the easiest thing to do was to just take the hit on it and be like, or I'm going to argue with you and get into a thing where both of us are going to come away from this unhappy, and it's going to be like a sour taste. Yeah, so it's always better to take the responsibility and take the hit and be like, okay, that's fine. If you're not happy, but you can't. If someone's not happy, you can't say anything about it. They're not happy. That's it. But I definitely learned some things about. You know what? A lot of those jobs that we have like that, I've noticed. Well, I sat back at the end of last year and had a look, and I was like, they're always middleman. It's always with a middleman. And it's because you're not dealing direct with a client. Like if I deal direct with a client, I never have that. I've never had that.
Like communication breakdown because they don't know what to ask. Yeah.
Managing expectation. Like I send stuff for approval. So to the middleman, I'm like, you've approved everything via photo before I printed anything. So really, this is on you because you approved it. Yeah. But they're saying there's a problem. I can kind of see the problem. So I don't know. It all gets a bit contentious. But I was like, the only time we have those problems is when there's someone between us and the client.
Yeah.
We don't have that person between us and the client. We don't ever have those problems.
Yeah.
And I saw an interview with someone recently, like a big American manufacturer, printer, and they were saying when they first got into it, they thought the same thing, that they would go for like the wholesale high numbers for a middleman. So they're hitting like really high numbers all the time, and someone else is dealing with the client. Yeah,
that's the dream apparently. But then it's
he was saying,
south. Yeah,
I mean, he was saying no. He was like, don't do that. He said, I did that for about 3 years. There's no money in it. You're printing stuff that you're printing like thousands of things for like $1 each. Like you can print the same amount to go to the end user, and they'll pay you like a different price. So that guy works with. He's like on Amazon's like favored suppliers list. He's got himself in these places that are like supplying to the end user, and they make something like I think they make like $250,000 a month or something. That, like, it's a really big place. But he was saying for the first couple of years, we weren't really making any money because we were going wholesale with the middleman. And I sort of watched that and thought, that's exactly what I've done. Well, that's exactly what I've tried to do, is go through that process. And actually, you're better off going to the end users. You're better off speaking to the clients yourself. And I think that's part of running the business. It isn't just sat behind the press.
Yeah, but it's cool that we can all like hear each other's experiences a bit more. Like, even like there's loads of different screen printing podcasts now, and it's just, you can kind of, you never hear what other people are doing, and you're not sure if you're the only one who's going through it. So yeah, if we can all relate to each other and stuff. Are you going to printwear this year? Yeah, or maybe not?
I'm not sure. It's next month, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not
if
sure.
You do,
I haven't
just,
decided. I was sort of like really looking forward to it for ages, and then since the beginning of this year, I'm like, I don't know if it's like right now. We're gonna go and see all those. Like, we have account managers for most of those people anyway, and you get all the literature and everything about it anyway. It's like a really nice couple of days. I was like, right now, I probably don't have a really nice couple of days. Like, there's a nice couple of days that I can spend on. Like, we're about to bring out some of our own t-shirts, like the Scrabble one and things. We've never really brought anything out to sell, so it's like we've got a couple designs. Like, while we're doing the other jobs, let's do some of them in the background and get another like
shop shirt.
Yeah, and another like source of income that we don't have to constantly work on, that's kind of running in the background. I think you guys have like Blind Maggot.
Yeah.
So did you start that up yourself? Was that
Yes, because that's filling in for jobs that we used to take on, like, commission wise.
Right.
So we're just like making our own designs and selling those through like shops and like pop-up market stores, and we want to do festivals, so we're forcing it in and we're booking ourselves some festivals, because who doesn't want to like sit there with a pint and maybe sell some shirts for the day?
Absolutely.
That's what we want to do.
We've done some. We've done all these funny little projects because they were just fun. So my friend got like a Surrey bike. I don't know if you've ever seen. They're like the big three-wheeler things. Yeah, it's got like 4 wheels. You sort of like a sort of old pedal-powered golf cart kind of thing. So we made that into like a little mobile printing machine, and we took that to some festivals. Which is like a lot of fun. It's loads of fun. It's also a bit of a pain in the arse as well, because there's not like, you're not gonna, like, it's really nice to sit around and print in the sun, but you don't have the the ease of the facilities of your like studio set up, do you? It's a little bit different when you're out in the field somewhere.
Yeah, so it's a bucket and some water and a sponge.
Yeah, that's it. We got like one of them little like pump up spray things that you use for the flowers. Pump it up and it will spray out the end. We got one of them to clean the screens down with, and then like water-based ink, you can just leave it in the sun. So that's the advantage of working at a festival. But everyone loves it. Like the people that you come across that are there, people love screen printing.
Yes,
I don't know. It's one of those things, isn't it? That like everyone, when they see it, like kind of connects with it. Yeah, because I think it's so like you see what, like you see the result so quickly, don't you? So when I print, often people are like, oh wow, that's amazing. I'm like, and when you explain the process to people are like, oh, that's so complicated. Like, it's not. If you saw me do it, you'd be like, oh, it's really easy. Like, it is really easy. But yeah, especially with like when we've done things at festival, we used to do Dagfest in Dagenham. And that's like a little live printing thing. It's sort of like a market stall type setup. So you have a little bit more, you can have power, you can have a flash cure or a heat gun or whatever. But the kids, like I think the first year we got a commission. So they paid us to go there and print.
Oh, cool.
So we were like, if you pay for the t-shirts, we'll give them away, because we're not out of pocket and obviously paying us for the commission. So it's like, they paid it. So we just got as many shirts as we could and printed them for like 2 days. And we didn't print them, we let all the kids print them. Yeah, so everyone queuing up would be like, print my own. There were a couple people that were like, no, you do it. But pretty much everyone is like, I really want to go.
I know. That's really engaging. Also, there's another thing about that, which sounds a bit, basically, if people are doing live events or selling their own t-shirts on market stores, having live printing doesn't just draw people in to give them that experience. they also kind of do feel a little bit like, I've had mums look around our stall and say, oh, got any kid shirts? And I feel like they feel obliged to buy something. And we're like, no, we don't have any kid shirts. This is just like a freebie thing. But if you did have some kid shirts and you wanted to like monetize that or like make a little bit more, then they do want to like kind of support you or like, you know, pay you for what you've just done, and you've just like given them that experience. So it's a clever marketing thing as well to pull them in.
They come for the printing, stay for the t-shirts.
Exactly, nice. Tim.
I
think that's all we've got time for, but is there anything else you want to tell us, or like a little shop hack that you've got, or I'll put you on the spot?
No, I'm completely unprepared for this, like I am for most things. So no, like, yeah, we should get our web shop up in like, it's there, but there's nothing on. So next week or two, we should have a couple of items up on there. So sweet. If anyone wants to go and check that out, that's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna get myself a random one of the ones that you're going to produce. So I'll look out for it.
I'll send you one down. I'll send you one down.
I'll send you a blind maggot too, obviously.
Oh, please do. Yeah, some of your blind maggot ones are really good. I really like them. Really great designs. Yeah,
we're moving. We're like trending it in a different direction, away a little bit to more like illustration rather than tattoo. But yeah, steadily.
Our stuff will be very different. We'll just print whatever we think at the time, like just seems appropriate at the time. Yeah, that's it. We've got about 3 designs at the moment. I'm like, they all seem vaguely relevant right now to the times that we're living in. So I'm like, we'll just put those out, see how they do, and then build it up. But come check us out. Give us a ring. If you've got any speciality weird printing that everyone says no to, give us a shout.
Tim's your man. Awesome. Thank you very much.
It's lovely talking to you.
Yeah, lovely talking to you. Hope you have a nice evening. And I'll catch you on Instagram. And if you do come to Freeware, just let us know.
I can't hear anyone crying behind me, so it's quite good. Yeah.
You might have a nice evening.
It's always a good sign. Yeah. And thank you. Yeah, really good to meet you, because obviously you're following on Instagram, so it's lovely to put a voice to the face.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Okay. Well, I'll see you soon, and I'll text you in a bit.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Thanks a lot, Chessie.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.